Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. This is scary for the Miami Dolphins. Now, if you guys haven't seen so already, the Dolphins just signed OBJ to a 1 year, I think $8.5 million contract. So let's go ahead and check this out.
At the end of the day, we have good players.
OBJ is not in his prime anymore, but you never know.
We'll talk with Steve
with the Dolphins having Tyreek and Jaylen Waddle, maybe that'll open up things for OBJ.
Watching the Miami Dolphins manage their
this might be scary though.
Was nothing short
this might be the next big three, huh?
Went out and signed quite possibly the best player they could have signed to be their wide receiver 3, and at the very minimum, a great locker room guy. I think. Before we get to the
content, said I think.
Content coming for you guys today.
Yeah.
So make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way,
break. W intro.
Over the past few days, we've been dominating on Prize Picks. We've been hitting an end get out of the game, and right now, Prize Picks entering this offseason,
there we go.
The Miami Dolphins knew that keeping their top talent would be an uphill battle. Now, the NFL salary cap did increase to over $255 million for 2024, which is a little bit more than $30 million over last season, but the Miami Dolphins still began free agency more than $38 million over the cap, which was the league's third worst cap situation.
Third worst?
Who are over the cap.
Let's see. Hold up. I think I saw the Bills at the bottom of that.
And they were one of 7 teams who were.
Holy shit. The Saints 40 mil, 41 mil for the Bills, 22 mil for the Chargers, Broncos at 10 mil. Of course, Dallas at 8.2 mil. I would have thought Cleveland would have been, you know what I'm saying, more in dead cap with the Deshaun Watson contract.
And even with a much just 6.2 mil situation than originally expected, Miami still faced a huge disadvantage in free agency. And they were one of those teams that had to cut some of their key players in order to clear some cap space. Going into this offseason,
them in the Bills,
26 players who were scheduled to become free agents.
Holy shit.
In the
26 players?
Even their general manager, Chris Grier, had to address this reality in the aftermath of the Dolphins' playoff loss.
At the end of the day, we have good players here, and everyone will have a market. We're not really right now concerned about where we'll be in March, salary cap wise. I think, you know, Brandon Shore, Max Napolitano, we've had a lot of conversations. They've given us a lot of flexibility with multiple options of ways we can, you know, be creative. And so hats off to them, just, you know, through their work and grind on things. And so Mike, Brandon, and I will have a lot of discussions, and we'll talk with Steve as we get through here, and we'll try and keep as many of the players here that we can.
So the Dolphins got to work and immediately made some moves. They released defensive end Emmanuel Ogbah less than 2 years after signing him to a massive 4-year contract extension. This move itself saved the Miami Dolphins over $13 million, but it also cost them a valuable pass rusher who bounced back after an injury.
Hey, but at least they got Chop Robinson now, so
that same day,
that'd be a great replacement for them.
Their longest tenured defensive player, a player that
go along with Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, who are both coming off of torn ACLs, I believe.
He would also be released. This move itself saved
Howard's still a free agent, which is kind of surprising, but not at the same time because he did struggle last year.
June 1st. Just 2 years prior, Xavier Howard signed a record-breaking contract extension after publicly requesting a trade. But the Dolphins weren't done there. They released linebacker Jerome Baker in order to save just under $10 million, a player that was perceived to be the heart and soul of the Miami Dolphins defense during the previous 6 seasons, and he even agreed to initially take a pay cut for the team for year 7, but he couldn't agree with the team on how steep the pay cut would be. The Dolphins would then get to work on adding new talent to the roster. One of the splashiest additions that they've made was signing tight end Jonnu Smith to a 2-year contract worth up to $10 million. They would then restructure 4 contracts, including Jalen Ramsey's, to clear just under $29 million in cap space. But at the same time, reality would hit the Miami Dolphins very hard. They would lose safety Brandon Jones to the Denver Broncos, and probably the hardest pill to swallow was when they lost their defensive tackle Christian Wilkins to the Las Vegas Raiders.
That was huge right there for them.
$110 million contract with nearly $85 million guaranteed. Wilkins and the Dolphins
he deserved every penny of that.
For the season, including a hold-in during training camp, and the Dolphins elected not to franchise tag him for a guaranteed $22 million, which also makes sense because there was no way that they would be able to beat the Las Vegas Raiders offer. But don't get me wrong, this was a huge loss for the Miami Dolphins. Christian Wilkins Falcons was just a season removed from a record-breaking season with 98 tackles, which was the most ever by a defensive tackle, and he owned the 8th highest run-stop win rate since he entered the league in 2019. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a huge knock against Christian Wilkins for his lack of sacks, but fortunately for the Dolphins, help was on the way.
9 in
The
2023 though.
Shaq Barrett, a premier edge rusher in the NFL a few seasons prior, that has been declining in recent years to a 1-year prove-a deal worth up to $9 million. The hope was that he would be able to fill the gap left behind Andrew Van Ginkel, who departed to Minnesota.
Oh wow, I forgot about Van
Ginkel.
Ginkel had a breakout year last year.
Contract worth $26 million to replace Jerome Baker. He's set to have a
Jerome Brooks is
significant
pretty good
role for the Miami Dolphins and is more than capable of
great
filling
tackler.
the hole that Jerome Baker left behind. But what about offensively? How could the Miami Dolphins make sure that if they were in a situation like they were in last year in the Ice Bowl versus Kansas City, they'd be able to make the most of their offense? A team that was memed for the fact that they weren't able to defeat the premier teams in the NFL. We've even seen memes calling the Miami Dolphins the Dallas Cowboys of the AFC, which
that's exactly what they
I have to say is one of the worst insults you could ever give to a team in the AFC.
Because they couldn't beat a good team. They beat Dallas, but Dallas couldn't even beat a good team on the road. So I mean that don't really count that as a big win.
But whenever they face off against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs or even the Buffalo Bills in week 4, they just don't show up. The Bills put up 48 points against them in week 4 of this past season, but then they're able to defeat the New York Jets 30-0 in week 15. And their season concluded at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that Tyreek Hill consistently likes to trash talk despite them doing just fine ever since they moved on from
Yep, 2 rings.
Miami Dolphins come to Arrowhead Stadium this year. Guess what we gonna do? Guess what we gonna do?
Nothing. Get bounced out of the playoffs, gang. They got 2 Super Bowl rings without you, bro. That is like, bro, I don't understand why he continues to trash talk them like they're not doing absolutely fantastic without this nigga, bro. Like 2 rings without this nigga. Like, come on now.
The peace sign against y'all. I hate to do it.
Yeah, they threw up the peace sign against you, buddy, when they sent you packing. Okay?
Improve offensively.
Okay.
Maybe you're pointing the blame finger at the fact that Von Achan wasn't healthy in the latter part of the season, or the offensive line wasn't healthy. Maybe it's the fact that Jaylen, Waddle, and Tyreek Hill get shut down in these games because the Kansas City Chiefs, after all, had one of the best defenses in the entire NFL this past year. So what is the Miami Dolphins' solution to getting some help on offense? Well, one player that has been consistently linked to them throughout the entire offseason was none other than
OBJ.
Odell Beckham Jr. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. has had one of the most unique careers I think I've ever seen out of a wide receiver. A player that, in my opinion, throughout the first 5 seasons of his career, was one of the most dominant wide receivers in the NFL. But it seems like the moment OBJ got to Cleveland, his career sort of fell off of a cliff.
Yeah, because he went to Cleveland. That's why.
Cleveland Browns offense for that. You could blame Odell Beckham Jr.'s availability for that. But we all know what would happen. In 2020, OBJ's dad would promote a video where Baker Mayfield would always miss Odell Beckham Jr. whenever he was wide open and just not throw him the football. The result, eventually OBJ and the Cleveland Browns agreed to part ways. Odell Beckham Jr. goes to the Los Angeles Rams, shows that he's capable of being that same dominant wide receiver once again.
And he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl.
And wins a Super Bowl. But unfortunately, he would tear his ACL in the Super Bowl. So he would miss 2022. He would sign with the Baltimore Ravens in 2023 on a 1-year, $18 million contract.
He did not deserve all that money.
He wasn't much of a factor. And this is despite his quarterback winning an MVP. So now at the age of 32, there's a question of whether or not OBJ can still be that #1 wide receiver. Could he be as useful as he was at the time when he was with the Los Angeles Rams?
He's definitely not the same Odell like he used to be, but he's still pretty decent, you know.
According to Dove Kleiman, Odell Beckham Jr. and Kim Kardashian have reportedly broken up after 7 months of dating. Wait, no, that's not the news I want to get to you guys.
Nigga, what?
According to Ian Rappaport,
bro, where did that come from?
Wait, no, that's not the news I want to get to you guys.
Nigga, what the hell?
Rappaport, the Miami Dolphins are expected to sign Ravens free agent wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., sources tell me, and Tom Pelissaro. A new home for the speedster as Miami's offense just gets faster. Now, I have a lot of issues with this report. One is the fact that you're calling OBJ a speedster still.
For real.
The #1 concern I had about the Dolphins' interest in OBJ was how much would they pay Odell Beckham Jr.? Last year, OBJ got the Ravens to pay him $18 million. So if the Dolphins were thinking of doing the same thing, thing,
That shit, I'm still mad about that.
In this case, they're signing him to a 1-year deal worth $8.2
Like, why couldn't we sign him to that last year?
Less than was offered elsewhere, but wanted the fit. I think this is a home run for both OBJ and for the Miami Dolphins. In the case of the Miami Dolphins, you get probably the best wide receiver 3 you can possibly get to pair with Jaylen, Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. Jaylen Waddle has to be in heaven, man. Imagine being in a locker room as a wide receiver with Odell Beckham Jr. and Tyreek Hill. That's gotta be so
crazy.
Cool. You know for a fact Jaylen Waddle grew up watching these two. In the case of
Isn't Waddle's contract coming up soon too?
In my opinion, because he's playing for Miami and there's no state income tax in Miami, so it's probably going to all factor out financially for him. This is a huge reason why Tyreek Hill decided to play for the Miami Dolphins over the New York Jets, because New York has a crazy state income tax. But I also really like the fit for OBJ. I had questions about how useful Odell Beckham Jr. was going to be in the Baltimore Ravens offense with Lamar Jackson. And it's nothing against Lamar Jackson, man. It's just historically Lamar Jackson hasn't been the most wide receiver friendly quarterback. And this is part of the beauty of Lamar Jackson's game. Last year he had over 4,500 all-purpose yards, but 881 of those yards came on the ground, whereas he threw for 3,678 passing yards. You go to Tua Tagovailoa, who isn't really known for scrambling, who is coming off of a season where he threw for over 4,600 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I think an 800 yards
Tua turned the ball over.
Possible for OBJ in these circumstances. And I think it's a great deal for the Miami Dolphins. You get quite possibly the best wide receiver 3 you can get, and for OBJ, who should see significantly more volume than when he was with the Baltimore Ravens. The Miami Dolphins are going to be a problem to stop defensively if their wide receiver core can stay healthy. And in my opinion, Tua has shown to be more than capable of getting his wide receivers the football. So I give it A+.
Tua's contract's coming up soon.
Perfect fit, and I think we might even be in store for an MVP caliber season from Tua if he could stay healthy. Let me know in the comments section down below,
and like cut down on the turnovers.
How do you feel about this? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.
Hey man, what do you guys think about OBJ on the Dolphins now? Y'all let me know down in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on my post notification and get notified whenever I drop another banger video. And without further ado, I'm out. Gang!